Hey there, my name's Nora. My life has been pretty complicated, if that's even the right word to describe it. It's always full of drama, and 9 out of 10 times the drama is in my family. Now, I don't have a big family, so you can imagine that it's mostly just a few individuals instigating things constantly. One of these individuals happened to be my grandpa, and this is the story of how my grandparents got divorced while being on two separate continents. I have a very close, almost parental relationship with my grandparents. You see, my mother got pregnant when she was 17. Obviously, neither of my grandparents approved, but they couldn't just kick out their pregnant daughter. My granddad tried for days to get my mom to let go of the pregnancy, especially because my biological dad ran off as soon as my mom told him she was having his baby. My mom was adamant about keeping me, and there was nothing my granddad could do to sway her decision. They let her stay with them, but told her that she would be responsible for me after birth and that they would only help her with half of the expenses. Taking care of and raising me were fully her responsibility. Well, apparently my mom was more than ready to graduate high school and then become a full-time mom while working part-time. My mom and my grandparents made a deal that my grandparents would only look after me while my mom was at school. My dad made all these big plans for our future, but unfortunately none of them were able to come true for her. While giving birth to me, she ended up having some severe complications. She was bleeding way too much, and the doctors told her that she had to either give up on the baby or her life. Well, you can guess which one she did. It was tragic. My grandparents were inconsolable but chose to raise me themselves. They never shied from telling me my mom's story because they didn't want to take her memory away from our family. They raised me to know that I was their granddaughter and not their daughter. In that aspect, I'm really grateful that my grandparents stepped up for me. What I'm not so grateful about was the fights that I had to witness between them while I was growing up. I'm not talking about small spats here and there. No, I'm talking about these huge screaming matches that, more often than not, ended with things in the house being broken. These fights usually started with something really small and escalated really fast. I remember one day when I was about 15 years old, my grandparents had a particularly bad fight. My grandpa stormed out of the house. I remember my heart pounding because every time they fought, I got really anxious. About 15 minutes after my grandpa left, my grandma knocked on my door. She asked if she could come in. When I nodded, she walked in and sat right next to me on the bed. "Hi, darling. How are you doing?" "Good, I guess." "I'm sorry you have to keep hearing us fight this way." "It's okay, I guess. Were you and Grandpa always like this?" No, we were not. It started up a few years ago." "Few as in 15 years ago, around the time I was born?" "Yes, but I know where you're going to go with this. And no, it's not because of you. We will never regret having you. What we do regret is not taking proper care of your mom when she was pregnant with you. Her death took a toll on both of us. You just happened to get caught in the crossfire. Sometimes it just feels like you guys would be better if I wasn't here as a constant reminder of what you lost, you know?" "Oh, honey, never ever think like that. I can assure you that I have never once wished you weren't a part of my life. Raising you has been the one thing that has kept me going, and it'll be the thing that will keep me going till the end of my time." "You sure?" "Absolutely, honey. I love you, and that will never change, okay?" While that conversation helped me deal with my emotions, it didn't really help my grandparents' relationship. They continued to fight like cats and dogs. My granddad would spend most days out of the house than in. I never knew where he was going, but somehow every time he returned home, he would seem a lot more mellowed out. He wouldn't pick a fight with my grandma for a couple of days, which was honestly a record in our house. This cycle continued for the next couple of years, except I noticed how it was always my grandpa instigating these fights over the years. My grandma got quieter. She didn't respond to any of Grandpa's jibes or insults. That only infuriated Grandpa even more, which meant he left the house to go spend time wherever else he usually went. Under usual circumstances, I would have been happy that my grandparents weren't fighting as much, but this wasn't a mutual change. My grandma seemed sad. Her change was visible in general. She stopped cooking these elaborate meals that she used to love to make. She stopped going out to hang out with friends, and she barely looked at me. I knew that something was wrong, so I tried to talk to her about it. "Grandma, is everything okay?" "Yeah, dear. Why would you ask me that?" "No, it's just you aren't really responding much to anything Grandpa's saying." "Aren't you glad we aren't fighting?" "Well, yeah, but you seem sad. In general, you don't feel like the grandma I know and love. That's why I'm asking you if everything's all right." "Well, I would love to lie and say that everything's okay, but I don't like hiding things from you." "What happened? How bad is it?" "It's pretty bad, but again, I don't think you're old enough to know." "What happened to not wanting to hide things from me? Plus, I'm 18. "I don't know. Forgive me, my head's too much of a mess right now to keep track of what I'm saying." "Is there any way I could help you out at least, Grandma?" "I'm afraid not, but don't focus on it. I'll be fine. I just need some time to process everything." "If you're sure." "Yes, dear. Just focus on getting into a good college and living your life." I did as she wanted. I felt bad that I was ignoring her, but no matter how much I tried to talk to her, she always brushed me off and told me not to worry. I focused on my college applications, and eventually I ended up getting into a great college in the same state, but a couple of hours' drive away. Grandpa had gotten really angry with my grandma and had left the house for nearly a month. At that time, Grandma helped me find a place to stay at and helped me settle in for college. I was upset with Grandpa, but he never viewed me as someone who could hold opinions. If I ever tried to talk to him, he would tell me to stay in my place and not interfere. And I guess that was the way things were for the next 2 years. Grandpa barely kept any contact with me. It hurt, but after a few months, I kind of got used to it. Grandma would visit me every 2 weeks and stay with me for a week. I began to actually look forward to spending time with her because I realized her being away from home was making her become her old self. Every time we spent time with each other, we would talk about what was going on in our lives. That's usually when I found out what Grandma and Grandpa were arguing about at that time. On this one particular visit, Grandma told me that they were fighting over me. "What do you mean you guys are fighting over me?" "Well, not necessarily you per se, but it includes you." "What is it then?" "Your granddad's upset that I'm spending so much time with you." "Huh, you're joking, right?" "I wish I was." "That's really funny because it's not like he loves to pick fights just so he can get out of the house." "Tell me about it." "And he could occasionally come to visit me, but he chooses not to. He has some nerve to pick a fight with you based on that." "I'm so sorry that he's been neglecting you. I've tried talking to him, but he always gets angry, and then, well, you know what happens." "It just sucks. I feel like Grandpa's upset with me." "Oh, no, I promise you that Frank's not upset with you. He's just being difficult." "Still, the audacity he has to complain about you spending time with me hurts." "I'm sorry about everything. I really am. I wish I could change things." "It's okay. I need you to not change. You're the only family I have that actually cares about me. Remember my promise. I love you and nothing will ever change that. I'll always be here, okay? I was still upset about my grandpa's issue with my grandma by the time she left. I mean, both of them raised me, so why would it be a problem for Grandma to spend time with me? And it's not like I never made an effort to get in touch with him. Every time I tried to call him, I would go straight to voicemail, or he would speak to me for barely half a minute before hanging up on me. I just wished with every fiber of my being that whatever my grandpa said didn't affect my grandma in any way. Unfortunately, the universe has very rarely worked in my favor. Grandma was supposed to visit me 2 weeks later, but she never did. I thought that things might have gotten bad at home, so she would come visit me a week later. But that never happened either. I tried to call back home, but no one answered. I got scared. I was in the middle of my midterm, so I couldn't even leave to go back home. But as soon as I gave my last midterm, I rushed back. I walked into my home and was shocked by the state of it. It was a mess. There was shattered glass everywhere. The few dishes that weren't broken were dirty and unwashed. There was dust collected on every surface. This was never what the house looked like. One of my grandparents always cleaned up after a fight. I walked around the house just taking in the sight of it. I walked up to my grandparents' bedroom and saw my grandma just sitting in bed, staring at a framed photo of her and Grandpa from when they were younger. Grandma? Oh, Laurie, oh my gosh, you almost gave me a heart attack. Sorry, I was just worried. You didn't visit last month and no one was picking up the phone. I'm sorry, dear. A lot has been going on here and I wasn't in the right mind. Why won't you just tell me what's wrong? You've been suffering in silence for years and I can't take it anymore. Just tell me, please. Well, I guess you're old enough. It's embarrassing, okay? Grandma, we're family. Nothing's embarrassing for us. You're right, I guess. You remember how you asked me a couple of years ago before you got into college why I was so upset? Yes? And you know how Grandpa leaves to go somewhere every time we have a fight? Yeah, where does he go off to? Apparently his mistress's house. What? Come again? I found out a while ago. I found emails between the two of them. I just didn't know how to process it. I can't believe him. I mean, I knew we were fighting a lot and nothing good would come out of that, but this was a whole new level of pain. Why haven't you left him? Because he wouldn't have any place to be. I know I sound stupid, but we signed prenups before getting married. Everything is in my name. Poor man won't have anywhere to go. I don't know whether to feel pain or anger. Just promise me that if he does anything too bad, you'll leave him. But what if he has no place? I don't care. You deserve better than this. I guess you're right. I stayed with Grandma for that week. Grandpa wasn't there. I was grateful for it because I really didn't know how I would react to him. I helped Grandma clean the house up and listen to her rant about her feelings. It hurt me to see my grandma crying. I hardly ever saw her cry, but the few times I did see her cry, it was only my grandpa that was the reason. It sucked that he was always the reason for all these negative emotions. I wanted to stay another week so I could catch Grandpa and give him a piece of my mind. But Grandma insisted I go back to college and work on my own things. She promised that she would come to visit me in 2 weeks. I went back to my flat, but I couldn't help but feel the need to track down my grandpa. I was okay with a lot of the things that went on in my house, but cheating? That was a hard no. I hated that Grandpa was putting Grandma through that, and Grandma was almost too nice about the whole thing. If I was in her place, I would have let go of Grandpa as soon as I found out that he was cheating on me. The next week, I spent all my time catching up with all the classes I missed. I stayed up most nights to catch up and even get a little ahead of every class. That weekend, I decided to try and catch a little catnap to prepare myself to stay up all night. Right as I was about to fall asleep, my doorbell rang, and it kept ringing until I got to the door. I was already cranky because of tiredness, and at that moment I was so close to knocking whoever was outside my door unconscious. I opened the door, ready to yell, but stopped dead in my tracks when I saw my granddad standing there. My grandma was standing right behind him. She looked like she had been crying, and she refused to look at me. "Grandpa, how come the sudden visit? Did you suddenly remember me?" "Spare me the drama, Laurie. I'm here to drop her off." "Grandma? Why?" "Oh, so you suddenly don't have time or space to spend on your grandma?" "Okay, that's enough. You have no right to talk to me like that when she was the only one who actually cared about me." "I don't care. I'll be back in 8 months. Take care of her." Wait, hold up. Where are you going?" "A world tour with a friend who's currently waiting for me at the airport. Bye." With that, he left. I ushered my grandma inside. I carefully took her bags out of her hands and kept them in the spare bedroom she always used whenever she stayed over. I hugged her and just let her cry for a while. I made her a hot bath and just let her relax. I figured the last thing she wanted to do was talk. Even though my curiosity was killing me, my grandma's well-being came first. After I was sure Grandma was doing better, I asked her what was going on. "So, this friend that Grandpa's going on a trip with, is it his mistress?" "Yeah. I wish this wasn't my life, but here I am." "I don't mean to be that person, but why didn't you stop him? I mean, there should have been something you could have said or done to stop him." "You know what I realized on the drive here? You were really, really right. I deserve better than this. I've given my all to this man, and in return he's broken my trust and made my life miserable. I needed to do something worse for him." "What are you talking about?" "Oh, I'm going to make sure he never comes back. He'll rot wherever he's stuck, and the best part is I know that his mistress is only with him for the money. Once that money goes, so will she. He'll be left all alone." "I like this plan. I'll help you in any way possible, but for now, you need to get some rest." We spent the day just lazing around and watching some stupid reality TV. We cooked our favorite meals and talked for a long while. I was glad to have my grandma back. The possibility of getting revenge brought about a new surge of energy in Grandma, and I loved to see it. The next day, we got to work on our plan. Grandma told me that Grandpa was using money from their joint account to fund his trip for him and his mistress. I didn't think Grandpa could shock me anymore, but I was clearly wrong. I wanted to find him and yell at him until my throat was sore. Grandma felt the same, but she had already been doing that for years. She decided instead to withdraw all the money from the joint account. Every investment they made and every asset they bought through their joint account, she sold over the rest of the week. By the start of the next week, Grandpa would have nothing for himself. Based on his transactions, we knew that he was in Sri Lanka. Well, we wished him all the luck in the world getting out of there. Grandma contacted one of her many lawyer friends and started the process of filing for divorce. She also had lawyer friends in Sri Lanka. She contacted them to have the divorce proceedings legal either way. Her lawyer would have the papers sent to that lawyer's office in Sri Lanka. Through their contacts, they would track Frank and hand him the papers. Grandma and I were upset by everything we had to do. We were letting go of someone who was an important part of our lives just because he wanted to satisfy his desires. He let go of an entire family. We didn't have to wait too long to hear news about Grandpa. The lawyer in Sri Lanka told us that they had managed to track down Grandpa at a hotel while he was arguing with the hotel receptionist about his card payment. He was escorted to the police station where the lawyer presented him with the divorce papers. Grandpa apparently threw a whole tantrum and asked to contact Grandma, but the time difference made it impractical. They had him sign those papers and let him go. The lawyer had a PI follow Grandpa around. Initially, his mistress was happy he was free from Grandma, but she quickly realized that Grandpa was broke. It barely took her a day to pack all her things and leave. Grandpa tried to contact us, but we never picked up any of his calls. It hurt to do that to him, but he had been hurting Grandma for much longer. You know, I learned a lot of things from my grandma, but the most important thing is how to be kind, yet how to know your worth. Grandma held on for as long as she could for the man she loved. She gave him chance after chance. But when he took it too far, she knew exactly how to get back at him. I guess the saying is right. Hell really hath no fury like a scorned lover. My grandma proved it through and through. We took time after that to heal and hold each other whenever the hurt got too much. We didn't care to find out how Grandpa got back, because even if he did, he would not be able to live where he used to. With every day that passes, we grow stronger. I hope you enjoyed listening to our story.